Let's go ahead and get started on this last shape. And let's go down to the bottom of our page. I want to start with the front face of this last sort of basic circle shape. And so I'm going to start with this bottom left corner right here. And I will draw it towards the bottom of my page off to the left. And from here, well, what do? Well, it says go up 1.5. This edge goes up 1.5, which as we know would be 6, as 1 is 4, and 0.5 is 2. 2 plus 4 is 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then from here it goes to the right, and it goes to the right 0.5, which is 2. And so we will go to the right 2. Now, I know from here it goes down, but it doesn't say how far it goes down. But we can actually figure it out with a little bit of math. If this is 1.5 and this is 0.5, well, that is 2, okay. Then how big does this have to be? Well, this has to be 4, because 2 plus 4 equals the total height of 6. And so this needs to go down 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it goes off to the right. And so does this, by the way. Now the question becomes, how far to the right do we go? Well, if you look, it says right here, this length to the center of the circle is 1. Okay, well, we know 1 is 4. And if we look, the edge of this line right here is at the same point or at the same width as the center of our circle, which is the distance from the edge of this platform. So that is 4. So we go to the right 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then from there, it goes down and it connects. Now, we can see part of this cylinder shape from the front view. The question is, how long is it? And you might be able to figure it out, but what do I mean when I say you can see part of it? Well, if you look at a cylinder from the front view, or from the side, I guess, you will notice that you can see the edge of this cylinder from the side. It's just right there, and it just looks like a straight line. And so if we look at the 3D modeled version, we can actually see what I'm talking about here. You can see this edge that we just sketched out. But if you look at it from the front view, you can see that there is another rectangle that we need to draw. And what is that rectangle? Well, that is this edge of this front face. But when we look at it from the front, it just looks like a straight line to us. We can see part of this face from the front. But again, the only question is, how far to the right does it go? And we can figure it out by doing a little bit of math. But to make our lives a little bit easier, I'm going to go ahead and stop the front view at this point and extend up my construction lines to help me draw the top view. And so I will go off to the left side and draw my first construction line, then go in and draw the next construction line, and then draw this last one that I have sketched so far. And I will use these to draw the top view. And so I'm going to go up 2 or 3 squares and start at this corner right here. And I know it goes to the right 2 to that next construction line. And then how far back does it go? Well, it goes back 1.5, which again is 6. So we go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then we can connect and finish off this face. Now, I also know that it's going to go to the right from here, a total of 4 squares to this next construction line. And I know it'll do that up here at the top as well. Now, here's the problem, is at this point it turns into a circle. And to sketch a circle, what I'm going to do is find the center of my circle first. And so I know the circle is right in the center, and so I know this is a distance of 6, and so I'll go in 1, 2, 3. Here is the center of my circle. And I know that this circle has an outer radius of 0.75, and I know 0.75 is 3/4 or 3. And so if you look, well, I go out 1, 2, 3, and I go out 1, 2, 3, and then I go to the right 1, 2, 3. And the trick to drawing circles on graph paper is drawing out the edges of your circle, drawing out your radius. And so once you draw these lines that represent your radius, each one is 3 away from the center, connect those 3 lines with a curve. And so just connect it with the curve. And so I'm not grading you on your ability to draw a perfect circle. I'm grading you on your ability to recognize the center of your circle and the radius. And so if my arc went past any of these radii, any of these edges to the circle, then I know you drew it wrong. Again, I'm not looking for a perfect circle. And if you look, there is another circle. So there's another chance to practice drawing a circle. And if we look, it says it has a diameter of 1, which means it has a diameter of 4 squares, or a radius of 2. And so if we go up 1, 2, we can draw our straight lines and just draw out the radius. So go to the right, 2, and go down 2, and go to the left, 2. And so I just draw each line that would represent the edge of my radius. And so since this was a semicircle, I didn't need to draw all 4, but since this is a whole circle, I need to go out in all 4 directions. And then all I need to do is connect my lines with curves. And that's the trick to drawing circles on graph paper. Now again, I'm not grading you on your ability to draw a perfect circle. I'm looking for, do you recognize where the center of the circle is? And do you recognize where the radius is? So just connect these lines with arcs. And it's not going to be perfect, but we will be able to understand what we're looking at and measure it. And if you notice from here, we can actually add more construction lines between the front and the top view. And so now we know how far to the edge this end goes. It goes right here to the very end. So I'm going to go to this tangent, to this very end of my circle, and I'm going to sketch down a construction line. And then I can connect this last part of my front face that I couldn't see before, and it turns out it was a length of 3, which makes sense if this was the center and the edge was 3 away, a radius of 3. It makes sense that this face here, this partial face that we can see, has a length of 3. And so again, what are we sketching? Well, if we look at the 3D modeled version from the front view, you can see we have this L shape of the front view that we already sketched, but you also have this rectangle off to the right, which from the front just looks like a simple rectangle. And so that just about finishes our front face. And so now let's go ahead and draw our construction lines off to our side view. So we draw our 3 construction lines extending out to the right. And we take a look. And well, from the side view, what this will look like is just 2 rectangles. And what do I mean? Well, I will only be able to see this edge and this edge. And so if we look at our 3D modeled version from the side view, what I mean is, if you look, the sides of our cylinder, the front to the back, will just look like lines to us from the side view. If you look at it as a cylinder, it is rounded, but from the side, it just looks like 2 straight lines making the edges of a rectangle. And so even though this is rounded, all we will see is straight lines from the side view. Similarly to how we saw it in the front view, this round edge looked like a straight edge to us. It just looks like a rectangle, okay? And so I know that it is too tall, and I know it goes to the right, but the question becomes, how far to the right does it go? And there's 2 ways to look at it. One, you could notice that the entire width hasn't changed. It's still 6. Or 2, you can look at this big circle and say, okay, I know it has a radius of 3, and so from the edge to the center is 3. From the center to the next edge is also 3. 3 plus 3 is 6. And so we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then we go straight down, and we can finish off this first sort of cylinder face that we can see from the side view. And then we have this bigger rectangle on top that we can also see from the side view. So we go up 1, 2, 3, 4, or to the total height construction line, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we connect by 6. And it looks like I got a little bit of ink smudge there, but this finishes off our side view. But actually in this shape, there's something new that we're looking at here, and that is what we're going to call hidden lines. There is something that we cannot see from the front and the side view, and that is this gigantic hole in the middle of this thing. And so from the front view, we can't see this hole. And so what we're going to do is we're going to mark the edges of it from the front. So let's take a look at the 3D model version to see exactly what I'm talking about here. And so from the front view, we can't see that gigantic hole here, this big cylindrical hole. But if you look at it from the front, it is there, and we want to mark it with what's called hidden edges. And so I know that it's a rectangle from left to right. And if I turn on my hidden edges, you can see those dotted lines that represent the edges of our cylinder. And so how do I sketch that? What I do is I take my construction lines, and I'm going to draw from the left side of my circle a construction line, to the right side of my circle another construction line, and what this will look like on the inside is just two straight lines. The edges of a cylinder just looks like a straight line to us, but I can't actually see these edges from here. And so what we do is we mark it with what we call hidden lines, from bottom to top. We can do the same thing over here. And so this is marked with hidden lines. It's something we cannot see, but we want to make it known that there is something not seen from this view behind it that you need to be aware of. And if you want to know what it is, well, look up to your top view and you will be able to see it is a gigantic hole in the middle, and this is the width of it. And so if you look, well, if we follow from the edge of this circle, that would be right here. Behind this face is a hidden line, and behind this face right here is a hidden line. But if you think about it, those hidden lines would also exist from our side view. If you look from the side view, there would be a hidden line here and a hidden line here. Behind this face, there is a hole in our shape. And so one last time, if we look at our 3D model version of this shape, if we look at it from the side view, we cannot see that hole. But if I mark the hole and we look at it from the side view, we can, of course, see it. And of course, if I turn on hidden edges, it becomes pretty easy to see. You can kind of see these dotted lines here. But of course, obviously, if I highlight it, it becomes even easier to see. We can see there is something hidden behind this side view of this bottom rectangle. But to figure out exactly where it goes requires a little bit of math, since there are no construction lines going into our depth of our side view. As there were, to help us out here, we could figure out where the edges were from left to right on our front view. We could just follow our construction lines. But actually there is a trick, which we will examine in our next video, to help us draw construction lines from our top view depth into our side view depth.